There's a kind of smartness that doesn't show up on any test. It doesn't come from a prestigious university, or a high-performing childhood, or years of deliberate self-development. It comes from something harder than all of that. It comes from having lived through experiences that most people would describe as painful and emerging from those experiences with a mind that was quietly, permanently changed. Psychologists call this traumatic intelligence. And if no one has ever named what you carry, this video exists for exactly that reason. Here is the premise you need to understand before anything else. The human brain does not experience adversity passively. When exposed to stress, unpredictability, or emotional complexity, especially during the formative years of childhood, the brain rewires itself. It becomes faster at reading people, sharper at detecting threats, more attuned to what isn't being said. This isn't damage in the conventional sense. This is adaptation. And in the field of developmental psychology, researchers have increasingly documented that adversity, while genuinely costly, also produces cognitive and emotional capacities that most people spend entire lifetimes trying to cultivate. The person who carries traumatic intelligence didn't ask for it, but they carry it, quietly and completely. The first sign is that you notice what people are not saying far more than what they are. While other people listen to words, you listen to tone, to pauses, to the slight shift in someone's posture when a particular subject comes up. You watch how a person's face moves a fraction of a second before their expression settles into what they want you to see. This isn't a social habit, it's a neurological one. Your brain developed an early and urgent need to read between lines, because in your environment, the lines themselves were often misleading. That capacity stayed, it sharpened, and now you perceive a layer of human communication that most people don't even know exists. The second sign is that you carry an almost involuntary compassion for people in pain, not the polite kind. Not the kind that offers a generic word of comfort and moves on. The kind that actually sits with someone in their difficulty without needing it to resolve quickly. This depth of empathy didn't come from being a naturally gentle person, though you may well be. It came from knowing what it felt like to need someone who didn't come. You remember what absence felt like. And so your instinct when someone is suffering is not to look away. It's to stay. Psychologists describe this as experiential empathy. Empathy that is rooted not in imagination, but in memory. The third sign is that you possess an unusual composure during a crisis. When things break down around you, something in you settles rather than scatters. You become quiet and precise in exactly the moments when others become reactive and loud. This is not emotional suppression. This is stress inoculation, a concept studied extensively in trauma research. Your nervous system was conditioned under conditions of genuine uncertainty. High-stakes situations were not exceptional for you. They were formative. And so, when chaos arrives now, some part of your brain recognizes the terrain. It knows how to navigate because it has navigated before. The fourth sign is that you think about people with an almost obsessive depth. You replay conversations, not because you're anxious, but because you're trying to understand something. You analyze behavior, trace motivations, examine the gap between what someone said and what they meant. You have been doing this since you were young, because understanding the people around you wasn't an intellectual exercise. It was a survival mechanism. You became a student of human nature before you had the language to describe what you were studying. The fifth sign is that you have built an interior life that is extraordinarily rich. You are rarely bored inside your own mind. You think in layers. You notice details in art, in language, in the behavior of strangers, that others walk past without registering. This internal depth developed in part because the inner world was often the safest world available to you. When the outside environment was unpredictable, the inside was where you went. And over time, that interior space became expansive, a place of real perception, real creativity, and real refuge. Before we continue, if this is already reflecting something true about your experience, something that perhaps never had a name before today, consider subscribing. This channel exists to translate psychology into understanding that actually reaches people. There is more to explore here, and you should be part of that conversation. The sixth sign is that your relationship with trust is not simple. You don't extend it quickly or automatically. You watch first. You observe how a person behaves when things are easy, and you pay very close attention to how they behave when things are not. Some people mistake this for coldness or distance. It isn't. It's a calibrated intelligence. Cognitive psychologists describe this as adaptive skepticism, a filtering system the brain constructs when it has learned that not everything presented as safe actually is. And the inverse of this is also true. When you do trust someone, that trust is not casual. It is considered, and it is profound, and it tends to endure. The seventh sign is that your emotional experience is more intense than the people around you seem comfortable with. Things move you deeply: music, a line from a book, the image of a stranger experiencing something tender. Injustice doesn't just bother you abstractly, it disturbs you at a physical level. This isn't sentimentality. This is a consequence of what trauma research identifies as heightened amygdala sensitivity. Your brain's emotional processing center was activated repeatedly and early. The result is a person who does not simply observe the world from a comfortable distance. You feel it, at a frequency and a depth that most people around you do not fully access. The eighth sign is that you are remarkably self-sufficient, sometimes to a fault. You solve your own problems quietly. You don't struggle, and you don't easily ask for help. This competence is real, and it serves you often, but it also has a cost. Self-reliance that developed as a response to an environment that wasn't reliably supportive can become a wall, even when the environment has changed. The same capacity that allowed you to survive without depending on others can make it genuinely difficult to let people in now, even people who have earned it. Recognizing this isn't a weakness. It's one of the most honest things a person with traumatic intelligence can do. The ninth sign is that stillness is difficult for you in a way you may have never fully examined. Rest feels uncomfortable. Silence tends to fill quickly with thought, not always peaceful thought. This is the nervous system doing what it was built to do. A brain trained in an environment that requires vigilance does not simply power down when the threat is gone. It continues to scan. Learning to genuinely rest, to tell the nervous system at a cellular level that the emergency has passed, this is some of the most important and most difficult work that a person with traumatic intelligence will ever do. The 10th sign, and perhaps the most defining one, is that your life has given you a relationship with meaning that most people spend decades searching for. You do not move through the world lightly. You have looked closely at pain, processed things that many people never have to face, and something in you has refused, consistently and quietly, to let it be meaningless. Research on post-traumatic growth, developed by psychologists Richard Tedeschi and Lawrence Calhoun, documents that a significant portion of people who navigate genuine adversity emerge with a depth of philosophical clarity, an understanding of what actually matters and why. That cannot be taught in any other way. You are, in many respects, someone who learned what most people hope to one day understand. Here is what all of this means, held together. Traumatic intelligence is not a consolation prize for having suffered. It is not the universe's way of making things fair. The difficulty was real. The cost was real. And naming the intelligence that grew alongside it does not erase that. What psychology offers here is not comfort, but accuracy. The human brain, under conditions of adversity, does not simply break. It also builds. It constructs capacities, perceptiveness, empathy, resilience, depth that are measurable, documented, and extraordinary. The mind you are living in right now is not the mind you were simply born with. It is the mind that experience shaped, and the question that remains is not what happened to you. The question is what you are prepared to do with the intelligence you built in response. Hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.